Oh, hello, NBA fans. Big J from Plainfield, Illinois, coming to you. Talk a little bit about the NBA playoffs. Boy, did you guys see games last night? I was so happy. You know why? Boston swept the Nets. Boy, it was nip and tuck, got pretty tense. It looked like the Boston came through. I was happy to see that. I had to ask myself, why am I so against Nets? Well, I think it's because me they came across as kind of arrogant, especially when they got the big three: KD, Harden, and Kyrie. And on paper, yeah, that was very impressive. And I probably thought that was a wrap also. Looking at that team and the firepower, the reputation. But it just seemed I didn't like, especially Kyrie's attitude. The way he came across doing that whole thing. Now, if you've probably been listening to some of his comments post the game last night, where he claims that he felt somewhat, responsible for letting the team down and that sort of thing, and how they hadn't really gelled, like Boston, and of course everybody would say, yeah, they had because of you. Oh, it was so funny. But AD had a fairly decent game. Although let me see, he shot 13 31. Wow. 41.9%. Kyrie shot 6 for 13, 46%. Not very good. Seth Curry really is the guy that kept them in the game. He was 9 for 13, 69%. 5 for 9 or 3-point line. Yeah, if it hadn't been for Seth Curry, they would have been in a lot even worse shape. Bruce Brown only scored 2 points. What happened to him? That's the difference between, good players and stars. Stars can do it, every night. But good players you could do it every now and then. So the questioning I heard some people discussing is how does this sweep affect KD's legacy? Well, it is kind of interesting that I think most people have what we call a recency bias. And what do we mean by recency bias? I mean, whatever happened last, you extrapolate and put that on the whole career. So KD wins the championship. Oh, he's one of the greatest Mount Rushmore type players. The next year, He lose, well, no, he's not so good. So here he got swept. So now we say, oh, okay, that means he never was as good as people thought he was because of this one series. Now, what's interesting to me about that, he had this one series that he had some difficult games. But I haven't heard anybody call it a meltdown like they do with LeBron. I don't know. I'm always thinking about the treatment that some of these superstars get, and how, for some reason, LeBron is always treated differently. Now look what's going on with Harden, for example, in Philadelphia. We're going to talk about that a little later, but anyway, yeah, I think this probably will hurt KD's legacy, but what it hurts mostly is the narrative. Earlier broadcasts, I talked about NBA nonsense and how the whole league and the conversations were built around narratives. What narrative means the storyline. And these storylines come into play, and once it's into play, it becomes almost entrenched. It's hard to fight off. So this loss in 4 for the KD fuels the narrative. KD cannot win on so-called on his own. He can't lead his own team to a championship. No matter that he was the MVP in the 2 championships that he did win with Golden State, the narrative was that he was apparently not the leader of that team. I don't know how you make that a narrative, but that is the narrative in hindsight. This sweep builds on the narrative that he only won in Golden State because he had these other all-star Hall of Fame guys. Just like, the narrative with LeBron is always that, okay, he can only win if he builds super teams. I'm going to talk about that a little later too. Maybe not this, but another one. This whole idea of what I call the myth of the super team. But anyway, the narrative around KD and losing 4 straight, considering the situation, it is going to hurt because of the narrative. But I guess it's understandable that narratives are the way people discuss and talk about things. It's just funny to me is how they get so entrenched and locked in. To me, sometimes there's really devoid of reality. Truth is, Boston had a better team. Boston had a very good defense, and they were able to subdue some things against KD that other teams weren't able to do. I mean, have you ever seen KD get a shot blocked? I've never seen that before. But Boston was able to do that. They had a multiple number of players that were able to defend him and cause him to work. Plus KD spent a lot of time handling the ball, and I even saw him bringing the ball up the court more than you normally would see. Now, he never did that in Golden State. In a way that kind of makes LeBron's career, to me, even more remarkable, because LeBron did spend a lot of time bringing the ball up. Can you imagine the amount of energy it takes to do that over a prolonged period of time? I think even looking at the Phoenix issue with, Chris Paul, that little rookie, forget what his name is, harassed Chris Paul so much. Chris had that very good game. I think it was game 2 or 3 where he went off, scored 19 points in the fourth quarter, scored 30, 35, 30 points or so. And the next game, he scored 4 points. This guy was picking Chris Paul up from, full court. And that, Chris, 36 years old, I think he is, just can't keep up that level of stamina. And it just wore him out. So, when you get that age, you can have one good game, but it's going to take you, 2-3 games to recover. And I think that's what happened to Chris Paul. So KD having to bring the ball up the court, that took a lot of energy. And then them putting the multiple players, crowding KD on the offensive end, probably wore KD down. And it's not surprising that he wasn't as effective. And it really kind of reminds me of, what Dallas did to LeBron in 2011. And everybody always points to 2011 to tarnish LeBron's legacy. They always point to 2011, but, Dallas played a level of defense that was able to affect LeBron's play. And sometimes you have to give credit to not only the failure of the player, but the actual success of the opponent, the defense. So, partly the failure of KD, but also the success of Boston Celtics, their particular defensive scheme to stop him, was effective. So anyway, I was glad of the sweep. I was glad to get it over with. I would have hated for them to go into game 5. Kyrie was said, subpar game, shooting 6 for 13. Let me see. He had a rebound. Did he have any assists? Let's see. Durant had 4 turnovers. He had 2, only 2. Okay, assists. Irving had 5 assists. KD had 9. Anyway, 116, 112. So Now, let's go to the other games from last night. 76ers and Toronto Raptors. I'm telling you, 76ers are in trouble. 103 for the Raptors, 88 for the Sixers. And I didn't really watch a lot of that game, but when I saw Toronto in the lead, at least double digits. Uh-oh. Then I was watching Harden and how he was playing, and it's just remarkable. I think that this is another case where Harden is diminished. He's not the same player. Harden scored 15 points, 7 assists. He was 4 for 11. Shot 11 times, only made 4. 2 for 6 from 3. And Embiid only scored 20 points. Played almost 40 minutes. Both Harden almost played 40 minutes also. Embiid scored 20 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists. He shot 7 for 15. 0 from 4 3-point line. So when they made the trade with the Nets, with Philadelphia, Simmons and Harden, I right off the bat thought that the Nets got the better of the deal. On paper, it was that way, and it turned out in reality too. But it's interesting, Ben Simmons didn't end up playing at all, and now you have Harden not playing up to expectations on the expectations on the Philadelphia side. So it's amazing that Philadelphia probably is going to get beat. Talk about devastating to somebody's legacy. Well, Doc Rivers is overrated. It has been for a while, but why do I say he's overrated? He's got a 3-0 lead. They say that he's lost more closeout games than any other coach in history. Why can't they make adjustments? Toronto is actually without one of their best players, Fred VanVleet, who got hurt and was not able to play. And yet still they go into Philadelphia in a closeout game and not only beat the 76ers, they beat them up 103 to 88. That's amazing. There's no excuse for that. Let me see. Siakam on Toronto. Siakam 23. Scotty Barnes 12. Anobi 16. Gary Trent 16. Chihuahua 17. guys I never heard of. Anyway, they go back to Toronto, and Toronto's got they're full of confidence. They're going to be really feeling good about themselves. It's going to be hard for Philadelphia. They're going to be demoralized. I mean, Philadelphia, who is on that team? Who do they have that's, I was watching Danny Green. It's just amazing. He, for some reason, well, he scored 14 points, but he shot, let me see, 5 for 10. He missed some wide open shots. Maxey, who young guy they're pinning a lot on, how many points did Maxey score? Scored 12 points. Tobias Harris played 44 minutes. Only scored 16 points. Got 6 for 16. Maxey 5 for 14. Embiid 7 for 15. Harden 4 for 11. Now, that kind of poor shooting, how are you going to win a game? Thibault, he played 14 minutes, scored 2 points. 76ers lose this series. Well, Doc will be gone, and I hope I don't see how Doc Rivers even keeps getting the jobs. I heard some talk about him, going to the Lakers. They'd be sick to hire Doc Rivers as the coach of the Lakers. Doc Rivers, as a matter of fact, needs to just retire. I mean, it's just embarrassing. What that went down with the Clippers, losing, being up 3-1. And now if he loses after being up 3-0, and if he loses this series, I was talking about narratives, talking about building on a narrative. That happens to be a narrative that's actually matches as close to reality as any narrative could be. But it's really strange. But they go back to Toronto, game 6, lose. Then coming back to Philadelphia, I mean, they just got blown out in Philadelphia. So if they don't win in Toronto and end it, coming back to Philadelphia, talking about the pressure, I think it'll pretty much over. So, final game, I think, of the night, we had Utah and Dallas. Utah and Dallas. That was another blowout. I don't know what happened to Utah. Remember at one point they were talking about Utah being a team to beat. Looking at the box score, Mitchell only had 9 points. See if I get this right. 9 points. Bogdanovich, 2 points. Mike Conley, 4 points. Rudy Gobert, 17. Clarkson, 20. The bench. Unbelievable. The starting five. Gobert was the highest scorer on the starting five with 17. Got 6 for 7. Mitchell was 4 for 15. Bogdanovich, 0 for 9. How do you go 0 for 9? 0 for 9? Mike Conley, 1 for 6. Does Dallas have that great a defense? Clarkson was the only one that shot decently. 9 for 15. Mitchell, 0 for 7 from 3. Bogdanovich, 0 for 5. Conley, 0 for 3. Mitchell had 4 turnovers. And look on the Dallas side. Of course, Brunson, 24. Luka Doncic. Boy, Luka is the bad boy. Seems like he can get any shot he wants. With his ability to dribble and maneuver, he has soft hands. He can manipulate the ball with either hand. He's just a smart player, and had 13 rebounds too, which is interesting because I think he can really jump that high. He shot 11 for 22. Brunson was 9 for 20. 1 for 7 from 3. Luka was 3 for 10 from 3 points. Let me see. They didn't get anything. What they get off the bench? Not very much. Dinwiddie had 9 points, 27 minutes. All they get off the bench. So Dallas, I'm pretty sure, is going to. I'm pretty sure Dallas is going to win that series. But they lead the series 3-2. And I guess they go back to Utah. Even if Utah wins in Utah, they'll come back to Dallas for game 7. And with Dallas having already beat Utah in Utah, you know, there's no fear. That kind of a situation. Probably win. Dude. So anyway, that's kind of my take on the NBA playoffs so far from last night. I wanted Boston to win. They did. I actually wanted the 76ers to win, but they lost. And I actually been rooting for the Jazz to beat Dallas, but so I'm like 1 for 2. So let's see tonight. Yeah, what do we got? We got Hawks. Oh boy, Hawks in the Heat. Trae Young, poor young man. He's so overrated. It's just amazing. But I mean, he can put up certain numbers, but I look at the way he plays. It's almost like a crapshoot. I mean, the way he throws up. Even watching him shoot the ball to me is not even a shot. It's more or less a push. You know, like shooting a shot put. Just to me, that's not even. You can't compare that to Steph Curry or Klay Thompson on as far as shooting or on a jump shot. Way Trae Young, he's pushing off on the wrong leg and it's just amazing. He's got the floater, that's effective, but to me, he's just too little. Well, they just put somebody big on him and just smother, and he can't see, so he tries to pass out of double teams and ends up throwing the ball away because he can't even see where he's throwing the ball because he can't see over these taller players. I'm sure the Heat's been dominating, and Jimmy Butler's really gotten aggressive offensively, and he continues to do that. They're going to win tonight. I don't see the Hawks even standing a chance in this game. He's up 3-1. So that's going to be a wrap for the Heat. Now, this next game for tonight, the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies. Series is tied 2-2. That's going to be interesting. Going to be an interesting game. Going to be a real interesting game because those things are pretty closely matched up. I think talking about narratives and legacies and things, Ja Morant is being somewhat exposed. It seems to me some of his shot selection, his attempts to force himself to the basket have been, not very smart. Many of these players I watch, they either do threes or they do layups. And we've heard this before about mid-range. I mean, people are really impressed when they see a mid-range, and very few of these modern players care about mid-range, and that's just totally baffling to me. But when we see a player that's able to do, with DeRozan or Chris Paul being able to dominate from the mid-range, we're really impressed. I'm impressed because I love it's a beautiful thing to watch from my point of view, to see a guy that's able to operate in the mid-range. So many times when Ja is trying to force his way drive into the basket when he could have dribbled and pulled up for a mid-range shot, that would have been the better choice, but he always try to force himself to the rim. And see, that's one thing so beautiful about Luka Doncic's game. He doesn't always have to get to the rim. He can get to the rim, but if he can't, he knows how to pull up, fade away, mid-range shots. That's a beautiful thing. You look at Karl Anthony Towns is he's a big man, kind of the same way, but he spends a lot of time on the perimeter shooting threes, but then he'll also try to drive and get to the rim. But will he do a mid-range? Does he do many, hook shots, jump hooks? I don't see a lot of that in his game. D'Angelo Russell, he impresses occasionally, but then sometimes he's just so inconsistent. Beverly with his crazy self, he can be effective even offensively. I've seen him knock down crucial, important, high pressure threes, but still, consistency is going to be an issue. So I don't know who's going to win that series, but at one point, the Grizzlies was heavily favored, just because of their record and everything. I don't know. It's be interesting. I'm not making any prediction. I don't make predictions. Predictions are nonsense. I don't even know why people try to make predictions. Because if it comes out the way you predicted, then you think that you're some kind of a genius. And if you don't, what does that really mean? But that's the way it is. Now, last game for tonight is the Pelicans and the Sun. Now, I think the Pelicans can win this series, especially if Booker is still out. Series is tied 2-2. Pelicans are not a slouch. They're for real. They got two players who can create their own offense. Brandon Ingram, CJ, all of them, they can create their own offense. Can hit clutch shots. So, Valanciunas, a lot depends on how he's doing it. It seems to be starting to use him more down low, which is probably a wise thing, because I think he can score down low. You can't throw the ball into Valanciunas and come up with a basket. He does. Sometimes he'll do little jump hooks, but he can hit from the perimeter too. But Booker's not playing, and poor Chris Paul, like I said, that little guard, I forget the guy's name, that's hounding Chris Paul, will wear Chris down. Now Chris scored 4 points the last game, so maybe he's recovered enough to maybe be a little more effective. But the thing is, when you get that old, sometimes it takes you more than 2 games to recover. Now, probably what I would do if I was in a situation like, if I was a coach of the Phoenix Suns, I would take Chris off the ball in terms of bringing the ball up the court. And maybe that could conserve some of his energy. Because remember, when the effect that Devin Booker has on Chris, he takes a lot of pressure off of Chris from handling, the ball. And so serves Chris Paul's energy. So that's how he's able to like have those, big games sometimes. But if he's got to bring the ball up the court every time and you got this guy pressuring him from end to end, there's no way Chris Paul is going to have enough stamina in the fourth quarter to take over like he did in that one game. It just won't happen. I think let me see. What's that? Golden State, Denver. Well, anyway, those are the games tonight. We shall see what happens. Who am I rooting for? Well, I've been rooting for the Hawks, but I don't think they're going to. Grizzlies, I actually been rooting for the Grizzlies. And I'm rooting for the Pelicans. So I'm rooting. So anyway, that's about it for today. So we will see what happens next time. Talk to you guys later.